Hello, everyone. Good evening. Great to have you here. We're going to get started in just a moment. We still have people flooding in from the waiting room. Thank you for joining us. As we wait for everyone to get in from the waiting room, please feel free to drop in the chat where you're joining us from and the name of your local group if you're in one. If you're not in a local group, we invite you to check out the links that are being dropped in the chat if you want to get connected with a local group. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. We're going to get started in just a moment. As we wait for people to enter, please drop in the chat where you're from, the name of your local group if you're in one, and also check out the link in the chat if you'd like to get connected with a local group. All right, we'll start with some logistics. First of all, my name is Marla. I'm Indivisible's Senior Regional Organizer for New Jersey. We do have closed captioning available for you this evening. You can access the closed captioning by clicking on the CC on the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you need help finding the closed captioning, a link is being dropped in the chat to help you out. This call is being recorded. All of the materials, including the recording, will be sent to you following tonight's call. We're going to have an email going out on Friday that includes the links for all of the recordings. We will be disabling the chat for the interview portion of the call. Before we begin with the interview, I want to let you know a little bit about ION. ION stands for Indivisible One New Jersey. This is the statewide network representing over 40 active indivisible groups and thousands of grassroots activists such as yourself throughout New Jersey. There is a link being dropped in the chat. It's also on the screen if you want to check out the web page for ION and learn more about us and get connected if you're not already. We have ION's mission statement up on the screen for you. I'm going to be quiet for a moment and let you scan that. It is also available on the website. And a little bit about ION's strategies. To further our work, we foster connections among indivisible groups in the state on issues of common concern. We work collectively to lobby state and federal officials. We participate in electoral work with the aim of supporting more progressive candidates in state and federal elections. And we engage in public outreach efforts, such as hosting public forums like this and working with traditional and social media. I'm now going to turn it over to Andrew. Andrew is Indivisible's Senior Advocacy Director.
Thanks, Marla. Hi, folks. Really glad to be here with you all today. As Marla said, I'm the National Advocacy Director for Indivisible. This week, I have the great honor of interviewing the candidates, or four of the candidates for Governor of New Jersey, Ross Baraka, Mikey Sherrill, Sean Spiller, and Steve Fulop. Tonight, we'll be hearing from Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop about his candidacy, how he plans to leverage state power to safeguard our democracy and act as a counterweight to Trump's agenda should he become the next governor of New Jersey. Before I get started, I want to remind everyone that we will, as Marla said, be disabling the chat during the interview. This just allows for a distraction-free experience. You can still emoji react, so please feel free to do that. Appreciate your understanding. So get your final greetings in there and sharing logistics for hands-off events on Saturday. The chat will be turned off in 3, 2, 1. All right, and now without further ado, please welcome Mayor Steve Fulop. Mayor Fulop, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me. I want to say thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound great.
Yeah, I want to say thank you. It's such a great thing to have such a huge turnout, and it's really inspiring. And I apologize. I got kind of a weird setup here. I'm in my car. We literally just finished a meet and greet in Maplewood. We had a great turnout, like 100 people, but it's nice to finish the night with you guys.
Well, we appreciate you making it work. So we're going to be asking a series of questions tonight covering 5 or 6 topics.
Yep.
These are all questions based on input we solicited from the Indivisible movement across New Jersey. And you're going to notice a theme here, right? In light of the emergency that is the ongoing Trump takeover and dismantling of our federal government and our democracy, we're obviously going to be touching on that topic quite a lot. On that bright note, we're going to start with a pretty big picture question, but also with a New Jersey specific flair, right? On Tuesday, Senator Cory Booker made history, spending over 25 hours on the Senate floor, calling attention to the grave and urgent threats facing our country and the need to be creative and persistent in how we face them. Mayor Fulop, in your view, what can New Jersey's elected leaders be doing to better leverage state power and rise to that moment,
Yeah.
as he said, to act as a counterweight to the dangerous policies of the Trump agenda and the flagrant violations of the law and Constitution and everything else?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, let me start, Andrew, by saying it is a dangerous time that we're in and a scary time, and you need fighters and you need people that are more than talk about fighting. You need people with actual actionable steps and history of doing this stuff, more than just rhetoric or investigative panels. All of the six candidates for governor are going to talk about why we're a fighter. I think that I stand alone both in a track record of engaging some really tough opposition statewide, some tough fights, got a lot of scars for that, and then mapping out a roadmap on how I would engage differently in the Trump administration. First, look, the attorney general is amongst the most important positions in New Jersey. Most of the time, it's a backroom deal with regards to who the political establishment selects to be the governor or the lieutenant governor, and the attorney general is part of that conversation. I stand alone in the fact that I said early that Matt Platkin has been at the forefront of pushing back on the Trump administration, and continuity for the state of New Jersey is really important. I would give him the opportunity to stay. It's really important for what we're trying to do to fight against the Trump administration. Secondly, I think another difference with regards to my candidacy versus anybody else is I talk about we really need to protect some of the most vulnerable communities that he picks on, whether it's immigrant community or the transgender community. And the way that we would do that is we would use the surplus that Phil Murphy has built. When he took office, it was $500 million, and now it's $6 billion. It's a good thing, but I don't think anybody goes to bed saying, thank God that we're B triple plus rating according to S&P. I mean, you have some vulnerable communities here, and we need to offset that by drawing down on that to make sure that we are making sure that some of those communities can live in the current environment. And then third, I don't think Phil Murphy is forceful enough, and I don't think our legislature is forceful enough. I mean, we call a lot to our federal reps to yell at them, and that's a good thing. I do that as well. But we have a Democratic governor, Democratic state senate, Democratic assembly down in Trenton, and that's the first line of defense. And I think that whether it's the Immigrant Trust Act, whether it's women's reproductive rights, whether it's gender identity issues, we should be pushing them to put a vote up on those issues so we could see who you are and stop playing games, because that's the first line of defense there. And as governor, I'd be vocal on those things. I think it's different. So those three areas are clear directions on how I would act as governor.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that answer. And you touched on a couple different topics that fortunately we're going to have an opportunity to dive into a little bit more detail on.
Good. I love it.
So it was a great segue. So Monday was Transgender Day of Visibility. As you mentioned, the presidential administration is determined to restrict access to trans healthcare and punish those who provide it, which makes it even more critical that New Jersey codify protections for this medically necessary life-saving care. Currently, this care is protected in New Jersey by executive order, but that's not as strong as protecting it in law. As you noted, there are efforts underway in the state legislature to remedy this. Additionally, the reversal of Roe v. Wade from the conservative Supreme Court has caused many of us to consider how do we respond to this moment and ensure not only the right to an abortion, but that anyone seeking reproductive health care in New Jersey is able to do so safely and with dignity. I'll start with one specific question, but feel free to expound here. As governor, if the reproductive freedom and health equity bill package that is currently sitting in the legislature was brought to your desk, would you sign it? Why or why not? And anything else that you want to say?
Okay, not only would I sign it, when I'm governor, I'm going to advocate and push the legislature to move on it, because what they're doing is unacceptable. Let me go a step further. The six of us running for governor, everybody says the right things probably in this setting. They say different things in different rooms. I say the same thing whether I'm on 101.5 this morning from 8 to 9 talking about the immigration issue and healthcare to immigrants, or I'm in a Democratic room with Indivisible members. Both the same. you have members of Congress that are running for governor that voted against transgender rights in Washington, and they turn around and say, let's celebrate Transgender Day of Visibility. It begs questions about what type of governor people will be when you see those sort of things. For me, I would tell you that there isn't a person in New Jersey in elected office that has my track record specifically around the transgender community. And I'm not talking about just putting the flag on top of City Hall. Of course, we've done that for a long period of time, not only funding Garden State Equality, I've done that, top rated municipality, we've done that. But in 2018, there was one municipality in New Jersey that extended healthcare coverage to our transgender employees, of which we have 3, and that was Jersey City under my leadership, because I thought that it was important to see people for where they are and to meet them there and to provide coverage for them. And so for me, I understand I have friends that are transgender. I have a large community, LGBTQ. So for me, I don't play games on this sort of stuff. And particularly around the cuts to Medicaid, it is life and death for some people here, and particularly in a community that has the highest suicide rates, high drug use, high homeless population. We need to be thinking about that and be able to articulate that regardless of the room that you're in. With regards to women's reproductive rights, again, Jersey City has had unique programs with Planned Parenthood, particularly around our WIC, Women, Infant, Children program. We've leaned into this very, very hard. And I think that this is an area that Phil Murphy does deserve credit. I'm critical of Phil Murphy where I think it's appropriate. In other places, I give him credit where it's appropriate. I think he's been good on women's reproductive rights. I think we probably could push more on legislation, but I would hope to build on this, and I think it would be a substantial improvement.
Thank you for that. On to another topic that you referenced in your opening answer. The Trump administration has been aggressively detaining immigrant asylum seekers, green card holders, other legal residents just for the crime of exercising their rights or having a tattoo. And they're being sent to jails out of state or out of the country. There's no due process. They can't contact lawyers, the whole thing. As governor, what will you do to protect New Jerseyans against this regime of politically motivated immigration detention and deportation?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a similar answer, Andrew, in the sense that, you're going to have people telling you the right thing in the setting of a campaign around immigrants. I am very clear, as others, that I would support the Immigrant Trust Act. Not all 6 of us would say that, but half of us would say that. I'm very clear on that. I would push for that. But beyond that, I think I have a different track record on this conversation than the other 5. I come from a family of immigrants, Holocaust survivors. Most of my family died in the gas chambers, and then they immigrated to this country. My mom's profession, my entire life, was immigrant affairs, helping people get immigration and citizenship with her office in Newark. That's what she did when I was growing up, my entire life. When I was elected in 2013, I established an immigrant affairs office in City Hall. It was the only and continues to be the only nationally accredited immigration affairs office in a municipal building in the country. We've been at the forefront of the refugee program resettlement for Afghanistan, for Ukraine under my administration, partnering with some very large nonprofits and advocating and putting money there. During COVID, when state and federal money wouldn't help some of the undocumented workers, we in Jersey City under our administration raised private dollars to make sure that those people can eat. So I have a track record on that stuff. I don't walk away from it, and I'm very proud of it. And in this moment in time, I think, yes, I would continue to be an advocate in building on a strong track record. Not all 6 of us have the same track record. We might say the same thing now. And then one other thing I would tell you is that those raids in Newark, and I posted this, Andrew, on my social media, one of those buildings that was raided was my dad's building. So my parents' income comes from a 4-unit building in Newark now, where it used to be an immigration affairs business. I said this publicly, and I posted the pictures. There's 4 units in there. One is a public school teacher from Irvington. One is an electrical contractor with the state of New Jersey. One is a veteran. And one is the lawyer that took over for my mom's immigration services business. So that's the 4 units. In the second day of those ICE raids, I posted the pictures. They have 15 ICE officers, the video coming in. They went door to door in that building looking for somebody. And they didn't arrest anybody, but they went searching apartments. So clearly they were looking for somebody. But I say in every setting I'm in, again, whether it's a Republican room, a Democrat room, I say the same thing, that I'm running for governor. Fairly, I guess, high profile. My family's been citizens forever, or 50 years. And it could happen to my family with no due process, no warrant. No, they don't even arrest anybody, and it's a slippery slope before you get to next level of what this looks like under a Trump administration. So you need to be very forceful and vocal and be able to articulate that to a normal person that doesn't have a view on this, that why this moment in time is something that we need to dig into. Again, my parents, my family's 4-unit building, all those people are legal. That's their teacher or an Army veteran, but yet no due process. And for those people that are watching, I mean, you could probably see on my social media the video of them kind of entering the building. There's 15 of them with the vests and the helmets and the whole thing. And the next day, one of those tenants asked to move. Long-term tenant, she asked to move because she was scared. She didn't know what they were looking for. And I mean, that's unfair. It's unfair to my parents. It's unfair to them. It's unfair to these families that were living there. It's unfair to people that watched it. I mean, and he needs to speak up about it because now's the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I'm sorry that happened both to your parents and to the residents of that building. And the fear really is, part of the point, in addition to the actual actions that they take, right? That they want everyone to feel like it could be them next.
Totally.
Want to move on to another topic. We got a bunch of different questions sort of related to the state budget. And, there's a big federal angle here, too. The Trump administration, Elon Musk and congressional Republicans, they're gutting services, whether it's arbitrary and unconstitutional, DOGE cuts. But also legislatively, they're racing right now in the Senate. They're racing towards slashing Medicaid, Social Security, food assistance, and more. It's been talked about. There's about $27.5 billion or so, depending on different estimates, in federal funds that flow through the current state budget in New Jersey. And any of these cuts would have major impact to the New Jersey budget, and in particular meeting residents' needs and vulnerable populations. What do you propose to do to sort of respond to the threats and the harms that Trump's actions at the federal level would have on the state budget, and ensure that every resident of New Jersey can thrive?
Yeah, Andrew, I mean, I touched on this a little bit. So the continuity in the Attorney General, I touched on that earlier because litigation is obviously pushing back is important. Matt Plackett, opportunity to stay. The surplus, drawing that down, I touched on that too. You're not going to offset the $25 billion. But, what we should be doing is thinking a little bit more about priorities and who's the most vulnerable, and we should be having that conversation. In Jersey City, we are thinking about that every single day. I mean, we get roughly $60 million from the federal government. It's at risk, obviously. And we've started to think about priorities that I care about. What are things that we need to fund regardless of the circumstances? So example is, let's say, Meals on Wheels. We fund 250,000 food delivery for seniors, okay? And it's federal funded, but we deliver. We're the deliverer. So those people rely on those food, on those meals. So we would have to figure it out, and we're planning to figure it out without the federal government. Some of the environmental initiatives of mine, which I think are passion of mine, okay, maybe will not be the priority in this environment because we need to make sure that people have resources like food and healthcare in order to move forward. So in Jersey City, we're thinking about that beyond the surplus and beyond the litigation. The one thing I would tell you that I think that Trenton should be doing better, and we should be pushing them, is, I mean, they should be having public hearings every day in the Assembly and the Senate about what the budget looks like, and being transparent with the public about where they are in this conversation. It's a crazy thing to me, the fact that they're not doing that. I mean, if you think about it today, I haven't heard of a single hearing that the public can come to and have an adult conversation around this is what's at risk and this is how we're approaching it. And that is problematic if you are a resident in New Jersey. I'm conscious of it because I'm a mayor. I deal with it. I think about these sort of things. And I think it would be a different approach if I was the governor. Push back locally. I mean, push back vocally. You obviously litigate. You try to use the surplus to offset it. But you got to be transparent with your constituents also and tell them, here's what's at risk, beyond reading about it on NJ.com and pieces and bit piece over here. So that's how I would approach it differently.
Excellent. Going to dive into a couple specific budget areas where we got a lot of interest and questions. So nearly 2 million New Jersey residents are enrolled in Medicaid or family care. If congressional Republicans end up cutting funding for Medicaid, what kind of impact would that have on healthcare across the state? And what would you do as governor?
Yeah, look, I think you need to understand what that cuts look like and for who, and the same conversation needs to be happening about where and how the most vulnerable people are in this environment. So you have some money that I touched on that we should draw down on, some of it, but I think we need to also be transparent with the public, which is different than what's happening now. And the second thing, I think we need to have a conversation around who can and can't live with some of these cuts, and we need to be supplementing those that cannot survive in this environment. We need to be thinking in that way. I mean, that's really the circumstances that we're in, as scary as that is. But I don't hear that conversation from Trenton. I mean, like I said, there's no hearings going on. There's no conversation about what's being cut. There's an occasional press release. I mean, if you're in the Assembly or the Senate, you should be conducting public hearings and town halls yourself every single week, particularly in this moment in time. And there's not one doing it, which is a wild thing to me. But I think that that is a reflection on leadership in Trenton overall, the governor as well. And I mean, look, not that Jersey City is perfect. We've done a lot of things good, more things good than bad. I think we have challenges like every other municipality, but those changes didn't happen overnight and by accident. They happened because I get in the weeds and I push and I'm willing to mix it up, and I got sharp elbows and I got a lot of scars for it. But that's the type of governor I would be. And I think in this moment in time, you need a wartime general, not a peacetime general. And that's me. That's in my DNA.
I like that. I like that. Another budget topic that we heard a lot about. New Jersey receives over 1.2.5 billion in federal funding for education. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and Donald Trump not only, trying to slash funding for education, he's trying to eliminate the entire Department of Education. Obviously, on both fronts, exactly the opposite of where we need to be going. What will you do as governor, both to respond to that, but also to overall just ensure that all students and families have access to a thriving public school system that offers high quality education for everyone in New Jersey?
Okay, let me tell you also, Andrew, because I try to talk in specifics. This is like the thing about, I think our administration is different. I want people to understand how we're going to approach this. You know, when the funding cuts started to be discussed, and he was saying that I'm going to get rid of the Department of Education federally, you saw a lot of press releases coming out of elected officials, right, with not a lot of specifics, right, just saying, oh, this is terrible, Trump is a bad guy, what are we going to do, we need to hold him accountable, and that stuff is important to, I guess, communicate your anger. But what people need in this moment is actionable steps. So I think the most important thing that we could be doing right now as it relates to education in New Jersey, and our eyes should be open, is that the Department of Education in New Jersey is not in the state constitution on what that is structured like and what its responsibilities are, how they teach, and what they must fulfill. We must deliver a fair and efficient education is what it says, and the rest is TBD and is a function of leadership. And I think that the one thing that I've realized here as I think about this more is that if you have Bill Spady or Jack Ciattarelli become elected governor, you will see wholesale changes to education in New Jersey policy because Donald Trump has opened up the door to that. He showed that it's okay to have religion in schools, to have conversations around this stuff. And it's the reason that we should be thinking about it. Phil Murphy should be taking the initiative and be saying, hey, how do we protect education in New Jersey in the chance that we don't have a Democrat governor here? How do we do that in perpetuity? That needs to be the conversation in Trenton. So it can't only be a press release. It's got to be like, how do we take an actionable step to learn from what's happening in Washington to protect New Jersey? And if I was a governor, that's what I'd be driving at. I'd be saying, okay, we see this is at risk. We see that we're a purple state, or we think we are if we don't organize properly. How do we protect ourselves in the worst case scenario so that education here, we're not going to control the entire funding situation, but we can control what they teach in the schools and make sure that they're not going off the rails like Trump would have them do.
Yeah, I think it's a great point about, not taking anything that you have for granted and trying to sort of lock it in as best as possible. Obviously, we're seeing that sort of whiplash effect at the federal level quite strongly right now. All right, one last budget related question for you. Nearly 300,000 veterans call New Jersey home, of which nearly 130,000 receive VA healthcare. Of course, there's other veteran support programs as well. again, Donald Trump, he's in the midst of efforts to axe around 80,000 VA jobs.
Yeah.
That's medical professionals, the crisis hotlines, claims processors, everything. What will you do to ensure that New Jersey's veterans, aren't left out in the cold and are receiving the services that the VA would be providing or these other services?
Yeah. So I am a veteran myself. I served in Iraq in the Marine Corps, and it's a important part of who I am. I went on the enlisted side. I thought it was important to be enlisted and with the people out there, the grunts doing the work. And I think it shaped me a lot of who I am. So I'm passionate about this issue. When I was elected mayor, we've invested a lot in veteran offices and services in Jersey City around social services, mental health. And the one thing that I've learned along the way, which I would take and I think is important in this moment, is that you can't always deliver every service and or replicate it yourself at the local level. It's a lot of partnerships with nonprofits, and it's a cheaper and more efficient way to deliver services often. And I think that in a case where you have veteran services being scaled back, I think that the state needs to be thinking about how to partner with some of the larger nonprofits that serve veterans, because rather than hiring people and recreating the wheel, we need to be thinking about the delivery of services through that mechanism. It's the same thing of like how Jersey City has done a lot of things with immigrants, partnering with some of the better providers around that front. So I think in this moment in time, that is the best way to confront that.
Excellent. Thank you. Shifting gears a little bit here, I want to talk about democracy, voting rights, elections.
Yeah,
New Jersey, and you referenced this a little bit before, New Jersey has a long history of, I'll say it, corruption, right? Non-competitive elections,
we
ballots that don't
do.
treat candidates
We
equally.
do.
Is this the first you're hearing of it?
Have you met
And
Bob Menendez? But go ahead.
and of course, while New Jersey's made some significant strides recently towards eliminating the county line, having fair
Yeah,
office ballot primary
yeah,
elections, there are still concerns about the role of political bosses, if there's going to
yeah,
be new ways for folks like that to ensure their preferred
yeah,
candidates win and prevent fair and competitive elections. So
yeah,
what will you do as governor to ensure elected
yeah,
officials are all accountable to their voters rather
yeah.
than, some party boss, and that there's an equal playing field for candidates?
Look, everything about our campaign is different than the others. I've never ran with the county line support. The entire infrastructure was against me when I ran for mayor, both and when I ran for council. And I've had a complicated relationship with these people because you got to work with them, but at the same time, they've never embraced me. I've started a lane running for governor a year and a half ago prior to the lines being gone. And I would say prior to Andy Kim's lawsuit, you could Google it, that I would say, if elected, I'm going to dismantle the county line system. And I was clear that this is the type of campaign I wanted to run that was grassroots focused. We have more volunteers than any other campaign. We're more structured. And it's about wholesale change and supporting primaries throughout New Jersey. We're running 40 candidates throughout New Jersey. The political machine hates that I'm doing that. But the thought is that I was already going to spend money in TV, and I was going to mail people, not as much as Sean Spiller, but I was going to mail them anyway. And so I thought that why not communicate with people? And we have 40 candidates that are phenomenal and going to create more accountability in the system. On my website, you could see that I'm more detailed on policy than any of the other candidates. I think it's important because if you want to energize the base to come out and vote, you need to be clear and articulate your vision for New Jersey and what you stand for. And you can't parse words around that. That's very clear and the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. One of the things we have there is a government reform platform. It talks about things that I could implement easily and things that I think are more complicated, but I'm going to drive at. Look, I'm a believer in things like term limits. That's going to be a fight in Trenton, but I will push for it. Okay. But I'm pragmatic that that's going to be a fight. Okay. Things like change the clerk's office. Today they drew ballot positions. They do it like the same way they did it in 1960. Why you can't have a machine and computer doing that like a normal private sector organization is silly, right? That speaks to it. I'm passionate about ranked choice voting. I stand alone relative to the other six. I think that it is the important next step in democracy in New Jersey. And if you are going to change the whole conversation, ranked choice voting is something that we need to drive at. Jersey City we've done all the resolutions and a trigger ordinance and all of that stuff. And I'm very vocal about that during this campaign because I think the next step is ranked choice voting.
An excellent transition to another sort of election day related question I wanted to touch on. 23 states and the District of Columbia have implemented same day voter registration. So a qualified resident
Yep.
can register and vote, cast the ballot on the same day. I've done it
Yep.
myself in a couple jurisdictions. It's really
Yep.
excellent, very convenient.
Yep.
Meanwhile, voter registration in New Jersey, as you know, 21 days before election day, which disenfranchises people, particularly young
Yep.
voters. It's tough to plan ahead. 3 weeks. I have trouble, I don't know what I'm going to eat for dinner like later tonight. Clearly, we have a position here that there's a direction that we should be headed. Do you support New Jersey joining the 23 states in DC and adopting same-day voter registration?
Andrew, it's in my policy paper. I think anything that improves democracy is good. I think that Phil Murphy deserves some credit here. I'm critical of some things about him. I think that they've done a lot of things under his administration to encourage more voter access. Same day voter registration they haven't done, and I think that that's a mistake. But like automatic voter registration, things like that, those are good steps. However, the implementation has been poor, meaning that they don't advertise it, they don't educate the public. Like, think about the fact that this weekend we're going to have rallies throughout the state of New Jersey. Right? Like, there's no concerted effort organizing people around voter registration from the state and the state party to do those sort of things. And I would go a step further. The reason those things don't happen is because ultimately the political system in New Jersey, which is largely lobbyists and people that have monetized the system for their own benefit, are not incentivized to change what the electorate looks like. They want to keep it exactly what it is because they benefit financially. You have a state chairman in New Jersey who is a contract lobbyist. Think about how crazy that is. He works for PSE&G and Horizon at the same time espousing democratic values. It's a wild thing. No other state would that be acceptable. But you need to expand voters in order to change the electorate, in order to get a better representation. That's the formula.
Yet again, another great transition to my next question.
See, we're working together on the transition.
This has been very collaborative. You mentioned the rallies this weekend. Obviously, one thing that Indivisibles really value is having an open and ongoing relationship with our elected officials. So it's not just here during the election, but it's elected officials who are currently serving. We want to get these big legislative priorities across the finish line. We want to be holding folks accountable when they're not doing the right thing. All of that. If you are elected governor, what would you do to cultivate relationships with grassroots activists and organizations throughout the state?
Yeah. Look, I mean, my objective is to be a consequential governor. That's my objective. Okay, and I'm very clear about the things I want to do and how I want to do it. And when I first got elected, truthfully, mayor, I made a lot of mistakes in structure of government. And I thought that I did some things that were off-brand that I didn't feel comfortable with ultimately. And it's the reason I didn't run for governor in 2017, because I felt like I relied on a political structure that wasn't comfortable for me. I learned along the way, and I feel like the energy on the grassroots front, who your directors are, who your leadership are, is really important to being effective. And so I think that there is this tapped energy that is capable of moving a lot of these initiatives forward if Governor Murphy was to better utilize it. I feel that he started his administration with some of these priorities, and over time, he's moved in the opposite direction towards some of these political bosses. And I've been vocal. He doesn't like the fact that I say it, but you're in year 8 or 7 of his administration. He has nothing to lose by pushing back against these people. Nothing to lose. And he still doesn't do it. I think you can judge people by their friends and you could judge them by their enemies. There is a reason that Bob Menendez and George Norcross and Chris Christie all feel a certain way about me in particular. And I think that's a good thing. Okay. And I think they know that I'm capable of change and capable of implementing the things that I'm telling you that I'm going to do. And for them, that's a dangerous thing. And it's a reason they used to convene rooms, anybody but Steve Fulop. And so my objective is to win this election, to stay close to activist base and people where the energy is, to get people involved in boards and decision-making abilities around the levers of government, which hasn't happened in a long time. And I think that's how you're going to change government. I mean, think about the fact that Horizon, that board, Horizon, was expanded. It's all politicians running your healthcare system, the BPU, your rates, all politicians. It's retired politicians. They go sit on these boards, and it's one thing after another. And I think Rutgers has become more political. I mean, it's a crazy thing, right? So I think that the reality is that I've learned a lot. I think being a mayor is an important credential for this job and experience. I don't think others have the same skill set that I do, same scars that I do, same battles that I do, same track record that I do. And I think that I would be able to bring that, hit the ground running, and be a great partner for you. Not a good partner, a great partner.
Well, that's excellent to hear. Those are the big topics that we wanted to cover tonight, but we certainly have a few more minutes here. Given everything we've covered, is there anything that we didn't get a chance to touch on that is, really, really core to your campaign that you want to speak to, or any additional closing thoughts?
No, I feel like we covered a lot. I was trying to talk really fast because I didn't know if I had how much time I had. But look, I mean, I see there are a lot of people watching, and I'm thankful for that. And it's a scary time, and I don't know how else to say it. I think that we need leadership that talks and acts and doesn't just talk, and gives clear direction and has a track record. And I think you know you have a president that talks about staying for a third term, who talks about, like today, is doing things to like destroy the economy. It is a crazy time in this country. And the governor election in 2025 is going to be crucial to success. And I would just say one thing. I don't think all six of us, as you guys think about kind of where this election goes, you have a lot of good candidates, but not all of us can win in November. I want to be honest about that. I think I'm best situated because of my track record and because of how I articulate the issues. And I think that if I get through the primary, I would be the best messenger on these same values in Democratic rooms and Republican rooms and independent rooms, of making sure that people understand how New Jersey will be different and implement policies to change that. And so those are things that are important to me. And I hope those of you that are watching that have never met before, I just want to say thank you for being fighters. It's really what we need at this moment in time. I think you guys know that, though.
Thank you so much, Mayor Fulop, for those answers and for taking the time to engage with New Jersey's Indivisible movement. Hope to see you out there in the streets on Saturday. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, Marla, handing the microphone back to you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you, Steve Fulop, for joining us this evening and for your great answers. I also want to thank the ION Candidate Evaluation Committee for coordinating this forum and crafting the questions, cultivating them from our larger network of indivisibles. And especially I want to thank the attendees for tuning in. Hopefully you were able to catch all of the interviews that we held this week. If not, a larger email will be going out tomorrow with links for all of the interviews. And then we also want to make sure that we are inviting you to the April 7th statewide ION meeting. We're inviting indivisibles from across New Jersey to discuss the race for governor, your feedback on the candidates, and ways you can engage in the primary. That link is being dropped into the chat for you. And we also want to make sure that we are promoting our hands-off events this weekend. You might have heard that we're having some rallies happening. We do want to make sure that everybody is aware that there's probably a rally happening right near you. We have major ones happening in New York and Philly. We've got a lot of local ones happening in state. So please make sure you check out handsoff2025.com to find your local rally and participate. And finally, we do want to make sure that we're shouting out Senator Booker's town hall. I have heard that the form to sign up is closed. It probably probably means that they are at capacity for the second venue that they had to book because the first one wasn't big enough. But just be aware that if you did sign up earlier, that you have the information for the new location. It was emailed out to everybody, but make sure you're on the lookout for that. And I also recommend you keep checking back on that link. Maybe the form will reopen if some openings become available for you. Final thing is make sure you're keeping an eye out for that follow-up email that we're sending out tomorrow. It will contain all the links that we shared on the call and more. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight, and we will see you soon. Have a good night.